The letter this morning refers to death and reincarnation. Hugo refers to some statements from my books. It says, in one, death is like deep sleep, so why worry? Now, death really refers to an object, not to a person. Death refers to any object and not to a person. There is a story of a Zen master whose grandfather was a Zen master. So ever since he was a child, he used to hear the teaching, Zen teachings, repeatedly, that all manifestations are objects and every object has a creation and destruction, has a birth and death. Now, this Zen master had a vase which he liked very much, expensive vase which was his favorite. He would always clean it, polish it, keep it in a safe place. Once the youngster, he was playing about and he brushed against the vase fell and broke up. The grandson was, of course, devastated that his grandfather would be very angry. So, he went to the grandfather, taking the offensive as the best defense, and said, "You know that beautiful vase, grandfather, which you liked?" He said, "Well, its end came 2 minutes ago." Obviously, the grandfather couldn't say a thing. The other story that reminds me whenever the subject of death comes is what happened when some years ago, early morning, I was playing golf with 3 of my friends. And at the fifth tee, I remember, it was not a big golf course, small golf course, close to my house. And we finished on the 4th green and we were walking on towards the 5th tee. The sun was opposite to us. And then a big bird, the family of eagles, not as big as an eagle, but the family of eagles. In Bombay we call it a kite. Huge span of wings. So it came low on us as if it was going to attack us. It came low from the side of the sun, then took a turn, landed very gracefully on the tee, facing the sun, raised his face to the sun, and quietly lay his neck down and died. One of my companions, he said, "Giving your chips in, are you, fellow? Giving your chips in, are you, fellow?" The words jarred on my mind. I thought it was one of the most beautiful sights I'd ever seen. The bird knew he was going to die. So he took around and landed on the sun. With his face to the sun, he lay down his neck and died. It did occur to me for some time, would this human being have said the same thing, cashing in your chips Are you grandpa? Or cashing in your chips? Are you son or mother? So my point here is only this. Whatever happens in life, the human being thinks only from his own point of view. He forgets that the human being is just one species of objects, along with thousands of other species of objects, with equal rights to the universe. So the human being is very proud that the smallpox germ has been eliminated. Whenever I come across that, it strikes me. What about the same situation from the point of view of the smallpox germ? A calamity. The other incident about death reflects my brother-in-law, my wife's sister's husband. He was a doctor. He didn't practice medicine because from the very early age, he was an extremely sensitive, extremely kind-hearted person involved in Mahatma Gandhi's struggle for freedom. Very sensitive. And vegetarian, non-smoker, teetotaler, not because of a sense of discipline, but essentially because of the way he was programmed. An extraordinarily nice person. So when he became a doctor, he decided that he would not like to earn money because of other people's illnesses. So he decided to become a pathologist. So he got a job. He lived in Pune, made famous by another ashram. He lived in Pune, had a good job, not a big job. So for his small family, wife and a daughter, he was one of those rare, contented people. Only thing is, his wife was something of a miser. She wouldn't spend anything that was not absolutely necessary from her point of view. So the husband and the daughter felt deprived to a certain extent. So once he didn't really grumble, and he has a great sense of humor, always a sense of humor. He said, sometimes, Ramesh, I wonder his wife's name was Radha. He says, I sometimes wonder whether we can afford to save as much as Radha does. You save, but whether we can afford to save as much as Radha does. Meaning she saves too much. Anyway, he never had a day's illness. He was always fit. But one evening he complained of a pain in the shoulders. He took the usual, he was a doctor, he took the usual medicinal dose. It didn't work, got worse. And the next day, he, being a doctor, he knew it was something to do with the heart. And being such a popular man as well as a doctor, it was easy for him to get a heart specialist, a friend of his, to come over and have a look at him. This was in the evening. And when the ECG or EKG was taken, both were having a look at the tape, and both knew that the end was extremely near, because the graph was practically flat. I use the same simile when they talk about the sage suffering pains and pleasures. It's like an ECG graph. Sometimes pleasure, sometimes. Only thing is, when the sage accepts the condition, has the understanding, the spiritual graph does not go up and down like this. Pleasures, seventh heaven. Misery, down in the doldrum. With the understanding, that doesn't happen. The sage accepts that life means, in the words of Buddha, suffering. Samsara means dukkha. Having accepted that, the pleasures and pains make a graph. And someone says, must the sage have a graph? Can he not resist both? Does the sage have a desire? Then whenever such questions are asked, I am reminded of this BCG. So, if the spiritual graph was also flat, it means the body was dead. So in that case, in my brother-in-law's case, the brother-in-law knew he was dying, so did the doctor. But the remarkable thing is, there was no panic. Earlier, he had asked his wife to prepare a bag so that he could go to the hospital. But the other doctor had said, this obviously had to be taken to the hospital. So the wife came and said, what should she pack in the bag? And then the husband, this doctor, says, we may not have to pack a bag. Always a sense of humor. So he said, we may not have to pack a bag. And then as he lay down, the pain started in his toes. And while his friend, the doctor, was still examining him, watching the graph, he was saying, the pain is now in the toes. The pain is now climbing up. It's in the calf. It's in the thighs. And he kept on perfectly witnessing exactly what was happening and reporting. Until the pain came to the heart, and he stopped. And he stopped talking. And he died. His face perfectly composed, not the slightest sign of panic. That is the other instance of death. Curiously, a bird, accepting his death, no panic, a highly evolved human being, also accepting death when it occurred, without any panic. The third instance I would like to mention is my granddaughter. She has always been a precocious child, intelligent beyond her measure, and always outgoing. The outgoing part of it is, once she wanted to have a birthday party. And she told the mother, I'm going to have a large number of friends. So the mother said, look, I don't have time to prepare for it. Call your closest friends. And she says, Mommy, my closest friends are 25 people. The closest friends are 25 people. Then when she left school, the principal had a special award made in that year for Akshata, the most popular child in the school, and extremely precocious, extremely intelligent. So there was news of a close friend or relative having died. So they were discussing at home. And she wanted to know what had happened, what death was. My son could have explained to her in simpler terms, but being a perfectionist that he is, he thought, no, she should know everything. So she gave her a beautiful lecture on birth and death, being born and dying, and what happens in between for probably 10 minutes. It was an excellent lecture. And Akshata listened to him very patiently. What happens? And then, with one remark, she went out to play. The remark was, "Daddy, I am never going to die. I am never going to die." The child has an intuitive sense of who is this I. The I she meant can never die. I is the source. It's only the object produced from the source which can die. And any object, human or otherwise, that is created has to die. So that is what I would say about death. It really is nothing to worry about. The worry begins the moment you think you are something who is going to die. And the whole point is, you were never born, and you can never die. An object is born, an object is going to die. The second point is about reincarnation. About the reincarnation, the whole rebirth or reincarnation, the whole concept is based on the sense of personal doership. The conditioning for thousands of years has been, you are the doer of your actions, and the conditioning all along is, this is right, that is wrong, this is good, that is bad. You must do only good actions. And every child, I am certain, must get a sharp shock. I think it is the experience of almost every child, that the parents tell her what is good and what is bad, and almost in the same breath, almost the very next thing they do is something which they have just told the child is not to be done. So it must really cause a tremendous problem for the child to be told something is right and wrong, and what she sees, the example of her own parents and friends and society, doing exactly the other way around. So the concept of doing, and that's again what my akshatas, I mentioned that earlier, I'll repeat it again. Now Akshata, the same grandchild, was a very lively girl, and she always did. She was always in action. So the result was, at the end of the day, the mother was absolutely tired out. So one evening, mother, the Gita, she told Akshata, look Akshata, I'm absolutely tired out. And I think there was another younger boy, 2 years younger. So managing these two children was a bit difficult for her. Then she said, Akshata, look, you have tired me out. And she was very sympathetic. She could see that. Mummy, I'm very sorry, I shall try to be a better girl and not to harass you so much. So the mother said, I'll give you your bath now. After the bath, you go to your bedroom, sit for 5 minutes, close your eyes, pray to God that He will make you a better girl. Very promptly the child agreed. Yes, Mummy, I will certainly do that. And what is more, when she came out of the bath and she was dressed, the mother did not have to remind her. she herself promptly went to the bedroom, sat for a while which she must have thought was 5 minutes, but was probably a minute or two. And then she came out and told her mother, "Mummy, as I promised, I did sit for 5 minutes. I did talk to God. I told him how sorry she is to have bothered her mummy so much, and please make her a better girl." She said, I did very strongly pray to God to make me a better girl. And mother was delighted. Then she went to play. And next day, of course, what can happen? The same thing. So she said, "Akshata, I thought you had prayed to God to make you a better girl." And Akshata says, "Mummy, honestly, I did pray." "Then why have you acting like this again?" "Mummy," she said, "I can only say that I did pray hard, and if God has not made me a better girl," a 4 or 5-year-old child, imagine, 4 or 5-year-old child, saying, if he has not made me a better girl, either he can do nothing about it, or he wants me to be as I am. He wants me to be as I am. And Geeta, talking to my wife, said, and she ran away to play, and I stood there, I don't know how long, with tears in my eyes. He wants me to be as I am. So, this intuitive feeling that she is, as a created object, is helpless to change the programming in that object. Similarly, he says, "I have never been born, I'm not going to die." So the children's intuitive feeling is sometimes amazing. But that intuitive oneness with God gradually gets tarnished by the conditioning. Yes, on this point, any questions? Death and reincarnation. So on this reincarnation, rebirth, my whole point is, no one does anything. The whole basis of reincarnation, rebirth, is personal doership. So you either are able to accept that there is no personal doership, in which case there cannot be any rebirth. New births, yes. Rebirths, no. What can happen is that if the understanding has happened, in the case of a sage, at the moment of death, there would be no accounting of his own life and deciding that he has done his duty by God or he has failed to do it. There would be not even a thought like that. But I remember in the history books, Lord Nelson defeated Napoleon Bonaparte's ship at the Battle of Trafalgar, and in which he was killed. And his dying statement was, "Thank God I have done my duty." That is the reported statement. I wasn't there. Thank God I've done my duty. So that intense feeling, I have done my duty, must obviously go into the pool of consciousness. So what happens to this feeling of achievement of having done my duty, or it could be any other case where there is shame that he has failed in doing his duty or that he was a bad man. Either way, both thoughts go into the pool of consciousness. And how the source makes use of this individual, whether individual sentiments expressed, or they go in the pool, and from pool, which part goes to the new creation that is conceived. No, nobody can say. But the fact remains that when a sage dies, there is no remnant to go into the pool of consciousness. The body is created, the body dies. There is no sentiment or desire or hope expressed which is based on the sense of personal doership. The sage dies, the body-mind organism dies. If anything, there may be a physical sense of great relief from the burden of the body. Or if the pain is there, the pain might have been there. I remember my Guru, Nisargadatta Maharaj, when he was in great pain, someone asked him, Maharaj, are you in great pain? Spontaneously, the answer came, yes, there is great pain. So the great pain was witnessed. In the case of Jesus Christ, in pain the body cried out, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? And then came the answer from the understanding. Thy will, O Lord, not mine. That means acceptance of whatever was happening. Exactly the same thing in the case of Ramakrishna, who was dying of cancer. Mother, why are you torturing me like this? Then the mother's answer is to the same effect. What has to be suffered by the body-mind organism. So in the case of a sage, nothing remains to be added to the pool of consciousness. Therefore, from this point of view, it may be said that the sage is not reborn. But no one is reborn. And for those who are afraid of rebirth, as this letter says, my only answer is, you as your present ego, who wants anything in this life or in the next life? The ego, Robert or Mary or whatever. It is this Robert or Mary in this life occupying that body-mind organism or this body-mind who is concerned. But in a previous life which was supposed to be yours, there was no Mary or Robert. So therefore this present Mary or Robert is not concerned who the previous ego was, who created problems or a good life in this life. And the next ego in another life is not going to be grateful to Mary or Robert for giving that ego a better life by not enjoying her own life. So, to the present Robert or Mary, I say, enjoy your life. Forget about the next ego who is going to suffer or enjoy your present life. And enjoying the present life, according to my concept, is accepting whatever comes as your share of life or samsara. And don't bother about Don't bother about this ego. Don't bother about any other ego in any other life. So, about rebirth, any questions at the moment? Death or rebirth?
Just for me, it was a really big help to know that about rebirth and karma. And finally, no, it does not exist, but it was a really big help for me that I'm not dependent on mother or father. It was my own choice.
So,
you understand what
so
I want to say?
I think what you are saying is that you want to depend on that theory of rebirth.
No.
You don't.
I don't want to come again, but I understand a lot what I live. It
So,
helps me to understand my life.
can you explain that, please? What helps you to understand your life? What helps you to understand your life? Can you explain to me that, please? The concept that you are not the doer. Everything that happens only because it is God's will. Does that concept help you to live your life as you said? And that everything is done by you and you are responsible. So whatever happens in the next life, you are responsible, or the other way around. You are not doing anything. No one is capable of doing anything. This body-mind organism has been used by God for His purpose. The next body-mind organism, whoever it is or whatever it is, will continue to be used by the same God for the same purpose. How is any individual at any time concerned with God's business? That is what I would say. Surely no one need be concerned with what happens to the world, what happens to the population in the next generation. All that one need be concerned about is to be able to accept that whatever happens is the will of God and not the doing of any individual.
But I have to live.
Therefore,
Nobody cooks for me, nobody does anything for me, nobody goes to work for me. I have to do something.
So-
I can't just lay down and do nothing. Nobody does it for me. I have to learn to do it.
yes, therefore,
Stay in it.
Therefore, my answer to you is, at any moment, do whatever you think you would like to do. Do anything that you think you should like to do. And what I'm suggesting further is, what you would like to do and what you think you should do is exactly what God wants you to think and like.
And I'm not a doer. I'm a non-doer.
That is the point.
I want to know who I am, what I am. I want to experience that.
Yes. You
It
see,
does not help me.
so of course I can.
I know I'm not doing.
You see, the human being, according to my concept, is nothing more than a machine, a human mechanism through which God or the source or the cosmic law brings about whatever actions are supposed to happen according to the story of eternity.
I understand this.
So if you understand that it is only a human mechanism which is being used by God. How are you concerned? Who are you to concern? What you tell me you understand this. The only thing to be understood is that this is a human mechanism. Every human being is a human mechanism through which the same source, the same energy brings out such actions as are supposed to happen according to the cosmic law, which it is impossible for me to know. Therefore, the only thing I can do is do what I think I should do and take it that that is what God wants me to do. That's it. I repeat, only thing anyone can do is do whatever he or she thinks he or she should do, with the full acceptance that what is being done is not being done by any entity which does not exist, but by God. In other words, God is bringing about everything that happens to every human being. That is, I'm speaking from the point of view of Advaita.
I know that.
And
I know it intellectually.
Yes.
I know it by intuition, but I don't. It's not.
So your question is, when will you understand that totally? That is your question. That is your problem.
The moment I don't want to understand anymore. But I can't tell myself don't want to understand all this.
Exactly. Therefore, your only question is, when will I be able to accept that totally? That is your question. And the only answer is, it can only happen when it is the will of God or the source for it to happen. You are unhappy with your life, you don't want to commit suicide. When will I die? Only when it is God's will that this body, mind, organism dies. Finally, it comes to this: acceptance of God's will is the only thing that is left for the human being. And in the meantime, if there is suffering, there is suffering. And that suffering is part of the allotted share of pain and pleasure for each body, mind, organism. And death happens in so many ways. In fact, God's decision for each human being is what I call the destiny of that human being. First, based on whether the conception will be born or not, or whether the conception will be aborted. Beginning from that, if that conception is to be born, how long that born object will last, and in what form that born object will die, either a natural death or accident or murder or suicide. That has been decided, and for every living moment during that span of life, what is going to happen through that body, mind, organism has also been decided. And on that, none of us have been consulted. That is the fact of life.
May I ask a question about people being dead? You say that we leave this world and then we go to consciousness. As I'm a working medium, I'm able to talk to those people that are supposed to be completely dead.
Yes, you can do that. You're speaking personally now.
Not now. This is my work. I can talk to people that are dead.
Yeah, you're a psychic medium.
Yes.
That is what you're saying.
Yes.
I see, yes.
So they are not right away completely dissolved.
Yeah.
Because they give me messages for their relatives in this world. And sometimes I have the feeling they're acting on some way for the purposes of their family.
Yes.
So they are not right away dead. completely dead. There is perhaps just a sort of spiritual body left or something like that.
Yes.
This is correct, huh?
No, this is a concept.
Yes.
The concept is really the question, can there be angels or some other spirits by some other name without bodies?
Yes.
The answer is that's the source which is able to create human beings with bodies must surely be able to create beings without bodies.
Yes, I know, because I can leave my body too.
So, if from your point of view, you are able to say that it is your experience
Yes.
that beings without bodies exist.
Yes.
All right.
But because you said we go back to consciousness, there's no karma. Let's say it this way.
Yes.
And from my experience with people, I can see that they bring remembrances or events into this life that hurts them very much. And you would say they are new created, and other people say they have those experiences from further lives.
Yes.
So
whether you should depend on the advice of these spirits or not is again part of your destiny. Let me tell you two stories about this.
mm,
One story is a young lady was walking along the footpath and again pavement. In America they call it a pavement. She was walking along there. And suddenly she heard a voice which said, "Stop there right now." So she stopped. And then she found a large stone falling right in front of her. If she hadn't stopped, that stone would have killed her. She went a little further. Again, she said, she was about to cross the road. The voice said, "Don't cross the road." She didn't. And a drunk car driver came right across. You see? Then this young lady stops there and says, "Who are you?" And the voice said, "I'm your guarding angel. I'm your guardian angel." Then this young lady says, "If you're my guardian angel, what the hell were you doing when I got married?" Now, the other one is this. A couple got married, and from the first day, they decided, whoever dies first, the other one will contact him or her through a psychic medium. I presume someone like you. So, the husband died first. So as promised, the wife got in touch with him through a psychic medium. And he said, "Larry, is that you?" He said, "Yes, Mona, I'm Larry." So Mona said, "Larry, how are you?" He says, "Great. I've never been happier in my life than now." He said, "How is that?" So he said, "Sex in the morning, sex in the afternoon, sex in the evening, sex at night. In fact, I'm busy right now." So he said, in fact, you have disturbed me. So he said, "Where are you, Larry?" So he says, "I'm a jackrabbit in Arizona." So you see, frankly, you can either take this matter lightly and go about your own work without adding to your mental burden, or if that is the way you are programmed, you add this kind of burden to your existing burden. So what happens is really your destiny and will of God. Oh, this one is from Indrani.
It's not a question, Ramesh.
I'm sorry?
It's not a question.
I know, this is not a question. So you would rather not have me talk? But you send it to me. All right, I'll read it. And thank you very much for the letter. It says, Dear Ramesh, every time the teaching begins and the words flow, all that exists is a divine power or that divine power. Therefore, the addiction to the teaching, to be in the presence of the divine power, is a daily awakening lasting for 1.5 to 2 hours. Trying to explain the space that's created during the talks would be like trying to draw waves on water. To thank you for anything also seems quite superfluous, for it would be like thanking a spark which causes the flame to be later swallowed up in the flames. In that space, you, me, and others do not exist, other than a space or consciousness. Still, love arises, deep gratitude arises, whilst that grace sweeps through, leaving this abundant space. And yet, as from one human being to the other, I thank you for the pointers to see within, and only so to be the truth that cannot be spoken of. My lips touch your feet in a gentle kiss and hope to taste the dust you walk on. Tears pour down my face because of overwhelming love felt at this moment. Thank you, Indrani. I do appreciate your sentiments. And I have shared in those in my own time. This one says, there is no name, I have 3 questions. What do you mean exactly by using the term, the dark night of the soul? When does this happen, and how would you explain it? My reference to this is when the seeker starts the investigation or starts any spiritual practice, whatever the practice reaches a certain intensity, and that intensity leads to frustration. I have done this for 30 years. How long do I have to do this? I would like to stop this spiritual seeking, and I am not able to stop this spiritual seeking. So, the intensity of the wanting of the seeking to be stopped, that intensity which makes life totally miserable, that intensity which causes the unbearable to bear, is what I call the dark night of the soul. The understanding is there, but is not deep enough to bring about release. The intensity and the understanding are there, but not deep enough for release. That is the dark night of the soul. And when this dark night of the soul ends into awakening, again depends entirely on the destiny of the body-mind organism who is suffering, or the will of God, or the cosmic law. But even the what brings about some little relief in this dark night of the soul is the understanding that no spiritual seeker has himself started the seeking. No spiritual seeker has himself started the seeking. The seeking has happened. Someone who is interested in comparative religions reads a few books, writes a few books, he is not a spiritual seeker. After reading and writing quite a few books, such a person would represent, who is not interested really in seeking, but to understand the comparative religions, such a person would fit the description of Ramana Maharshi as educated ignorance. He is not a spiritual seeker. Educated ignorance which still believes he is the doer. So, the real seeking was not started by any seeker. And that, going back to that basic, I am suffering deeply, and I don't want that suffering to continue. If the basic is remembered, I didn't start the seeking. The seeking was started by a power over which I have no control. So, accepting that you have never been the seeker is the only solution. Accepting that you have never been the seeker, if even the intellectual acceptance of that leads to the misery that is happening, merely to witness the misery and not associate with it, identify with it and say, I am suffering. But this dark night of the soul can only end when it is supposed to end, according to the destiny of the body-mind organism, or God's will, or the cosmic law. But the only advantage of it, if I can put it that way, is this is the bad news. The good news is that when the awakening happens, there will be so much relief from living that it will be worth it. Once the dark night of the soul ends, in awakening to the fact that all there is consciousness, bringing about through every human being that happening, that act which is supposed to happen, and that the individual really is not concerned with any action or event, that understanding means the end of the seeking. And that understanding, no one is a doer, results, as I have said earlier, in the tremendous load being lifted from one's mind. The tremendous load based on the belief that I am the doer, or someone else is the doer. But when the understanding happens in the deepest possible way, that there is no individual doer, there never was an individual doer at any time, then the result of this is that life goes on as it was going on before, but with this tremendous advantage. One goes through life without the unimaginable burden, the sheer monstrosity of the mind, the labor, the whole load of pride and arrogance, guilt and shame. Yes, I did that. Pride and arrogance. Pride and arrogance is a tremendous load. Why is it a load? Pride and arrogance is a load because deep down there is the fear. I may not be able to do these magnificent things, achievement for which I am so proud in future. If I am not able to maintain my achievements, what happens to my pride? People will laugh at me. So the danger to my pride and arrogance, or thinking about what I should not have done or what I did do, means guilt and shame. And because you think someone has hurt you, you have accumulated the load of hatred and jealousy and envy. So this suffering of life that the Buddha meant in samsara. Samsara means dukkha. Dukkha means suffering. That suffering to which the Buddha related was not to the superficial miseries which everybody has to suffer from time to time. The suffering which Buddha referred to in his words, samsara is dukkha, refers not to the minor miseries which happen and go on the surface, but this deep load of pride and arrogance with the fear of failing, or the load of guilt and shame, again with the fear that someone may remember what I had done and tell others, which will again make me feel guilty and ashamed. And also the fear, the load of hatred. The hatred can be, unless someone has really suffered not being hated, unless someone has really suffered having to hate someone. That hatred of others is a terribly corroding factor. So hating others, in other words, what I am trying to say is, you cannot hate others without hating yourself. I repeat, you cannot hate anyone without hating yourself. So this load of pride and arrogance, guilt and shame, hatred and envy, it is this load to which the Buddha was referring as the dukkha of samsara. And the shanti of nirvana, the peace of nirvana, he said they are not two. Nirvana and samsara are not two. So he said, in order to get the shanti or peace of nirvana, you have to live your life. Bear the miseries and pleasures which arise on the surface, which once you have got rid of this tremendous load of pride and guilt and hatred, once this real suffering, the load of pride and guilt and hatred leaves you, what happens on the surface will merely seem like bits of needle. Those are not the suffering. Those are only minor miseries, minor irritants. Those do not cause the suffering, which Buddha said. It is this load on the mind which causes the real suffering. So if this load is off, you see the sage accepting the miseries and pleasures that happen to life without thinking much about it. And therefore, the absence of this load means shanti or peace. Not getting into a panic every time. But again, I'm constrained to say that with this understanding, the sage does not become a perfect human being. His strengths and weaknesses, as constructed in the programming, continue more or less as before. Therefore, if a sage is built to be timid, fear is bound to arise as often as it is supposed to arise. But that fear which arises is in the moment. And in the moment, whatever happens, in token of that timidity, the sage runs away or does so. The sage merely witnesses it. The sage merely witnesses the timidity in action. Merely as something happening through a body-mind organism. And he is not concerned that it has happened through my body-mind organism or someone else's. He may see the same thing happening through some other body-mind organism. He doesn't have need to feel shame or guilt. Why should he feel guilt in this body-mind organism? In other words, the programming in the body-mind organism continues to function. And the sage is not concerned with the programming in his own body-mind organism or other body-mind organism, with the full understanding that the source has had necessarily to create a tremendous variety of programmed body-mind computers, so that the variety and magnificence of life which Meister Eckhart spoke of can happen. So whatever is happening is part of the happening, part of the Leela, part of the movie. So whether some part happens to his own body-mind organism, the sage is not concerned. Therefore I say, once the understanding happens, the sense of humor does expand. The happening of the sense of humor earlier probably referred to the sense of humor arising from situations which others faced. Now the humor gets expanded to situations which his own body-mind organism faces. Situations are more in which to laugh. You see, so that is the whole point. Yes, any questions? Yes, please.
Ramesh, I have a question about the dark night of the soul.
Yes.
I experienced some months ago something what is beyond every words. I got sick, I got pain. I came to a hospital.
Yes.
And there was no medicine for this pain. Nothing worked. And they sent me home because they couldn't do anything with me.
Yes.
And after 10 days of not sleeping, I was in total despair. The
Yes.
pain was unbearable. It
Yes.
was beyond any experience before.
Yes.
And in one night, something happened.
Yes.
And it is not to understand what happened in this night. It's difficult to describe it. It was somehow that have faced God, a face-to-face encounter to the universal truth or to whatsoever. It was a very strong experience. There was not light, there was not energy, there was no form, no, we call it in German Gestalt, nothing I cannot paint it, no words for it, but it was extremely strong.
Yes.
And because I've been so in despair,
Yes.
I didn't run away. I faced it. What can happen? What's ever happened? Nothing can be more worse than what has happened. So I'm not turning around or running away. And no, that's too much. So I could stand it. What is this? What has happened in this night?
What happened is this. Earlier, you were running away from it. The more you run away, the more it will catch you and strangle you. So at that moment, through the grace of God, what happened was, for the first time, the pain was faced and accepted. The pain was not treated as an enemy to be fought. The pain was treated as something which is there at the moment, and that pain is you. What happened was the acceptance, not that the pain was causing pain to you, that you were in pain.
The body was in pain, not me.
And even the body being in pain, the pain was there. So you didn't suffer the pain, you were the pain. That acceptance of the pain in the moment, the acceptance of what is in the moment, happened in your case, as I say, through the grace of God, and it made a tremendous difference. Witnessing a pain as if you are looking into the mirror and accepting something causing me the pain. So from that experience, the suffering me had left, and only the pain remained in that moment. In one word, what happened was the acceptance of the pain. Acceptance of the pain as pain and not as something that was paining you. Acceptance of the pain as pain, something in the moment.
There was a total acceptance of everything. I was not able to sleep for 10 days. I accepted it. I cannot sleep. It is worse not to sleep for 10 days at all.
Yes.
It's hell.
Yes.
I accepted the hell,
Yes.
of course. And this was the extreme, let's say, dark night of the soul.
Yes,
I
indeed.
accepted this. What else to do? No doctor could help. There was nothing to do about it. What to do?
Exactly.
And I'm not running away.
Yes. Not running away means accepting. And that acceptance is the only answer. That acceptance, and on top of everything else, that acceptance which is the answer, you cannot arrive at. It can only happen. if it is the grace of God, if it is the will of God. So you can say what happened was the awakening from the dark night of the soul.
Afterwards, I realized that this disease, or what we want to call it, was a great gift. Now I can see it.
Yes.
If I'm looking back, but at this moment I couldn't figure out anything.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I read a report some time ago. During the last World War, at one of these camps where people were being sent to gas chambers, there was a Nazi policeman and a line of people, line of Jews, being sent to the chamber. And suddenly, once in a way, not all the time, suddenly, once in a way, it would happen that someone would get this understanding. One of the prisoners waiting to go to the gas chamber would get this understanding, suddenly start laughing. He would suddenly start laughing. He would start making jokes with the Nazi policeman, and everybody else wouldn't know what it was. And the policeman would say, madness, God's madness. So he went in laughing into the... And one such case helped many others enormously, that the report said. The sudden understanding happened. And when it happens, no one can. And this is not only about spiritual matters. This happens in any case. Fairly recently, last year I think, I read about Fred Hoyle, the British physicist. He was in Paris for a conference where he had to read a paper. It was a difficult paper. He thought he would get the answer by the time he arrived in Paris. But in spite of working hard on it, he didn't have the answer. But there were still 3 or 4 days. And then he says, as in his words, as he was crossing a busy street in Paris, meaning his attention was all on how to avoid an accident. He was in a hurry. In the midst of that confusion, in the midst of that physical confusion, suddenly the answer came to him. An answer which had evaded him for many days. Nothing to do with spiritual. What I'm saying is this sudden answer, sudden help from the source can come in any matter. So what was described now, that was sudden help from the source. So in this case, he says he got the answer, and there was such certainty about that answer that it was not an intellectual process. So as Fred Hoyle himself narrated it, he went to the function that he was supposed to go, had his dinner, made the usual noises he was supposed to make, came back to the hotel, and then sat down comfortably and wrote down the answer, which took him half an hour. So the answer which to put down on paper took him half an hour came to him just like that, in the midst of a busy thoroughfare. So when the answer to whatever happens is in no one's control. Yes.
So when you said now your answer to the person who spoke, you said at that point you were the pain. You said that.
Yes.
Is it the same thing of what Krishnamurti says, the witnessing, what is witnessed is who is witnessing? In the sense, the moment I really accept, it's like the acceptance is total. There is no more separation between what's going on,
There is
pain, pleasure,
let me
whatever.
put- there is no separation between the suffering and the sufferer.
Exactly. So in a certain way, the ego, let's say, is not anymore present in controlling, because the acceptance is totally.
That is correct.
And then the understanding that only the will of God
That is
can
correct.
happen, because there is nothing that you can do, because you are what's going on.
Quite correct.
Okay.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's two more questions here. Yes. There is a question?
No
Please.
No question, but I want to bring you best wishes from Anne Berwolf to you. Best wishes to you from Anne Berwolf.
Oh, Anna Baerbock. I
Si,
see. I
yes.
see. Thank you. Are you her disciple? I see. He says, how would you explain the story that happened to Susan Segal? You commented on her book before she enjoyed realization in the end. That was an individual experience. All I said there was that the experience which Susan Segal had was not a necessary happening for the final understanding to happen. Any kind of experience may happen before the understanding happens. But it is her personal experience, which has nothing to do with the general idea of what constitutes the happening. Is enlightenment a digital event? Which means, is there a before and after? Or is there a process leading to self-realization? There is a process leading to self-realization. But the happening of it is always sudden. That is confirmed every time. So what is the process? The process is to take a metaphor. Any metaphor is a concept. But the metaphor I often use is that of climbing a staircase. You find yourself climbing a staircase. You don't know why you are climbing a staircase, but you are climbing a staircase. And you don't know how many steps there are to climb up. That is the process of self-realization. If for a particular body-mind organism, there are 31 steps, say, then 30 to 31 is a sudden. You are still at 30. 30 to 31 is sudden. But for 31 to reach, you have to climb 30 steps. So there is a process, but the final happening is always sudden. And therefore the suddenness of that happening often leads to various things happening. In one case, there may be uncontrolled weeping and crying for considerable length of time. Uncontrollable. In another case, there is uncontrollable laughter. So what brings about that apparent experience, no one can say. But something happens, and it is not necessarily understood by others. There is a Sufi story. When this understanding happened, the Sufi came running out of the mosque, shouting, "I am God, I am God." And of course, at that time, I think even today, that would be considered total infamy. So, according to the prevailing practice, that Sufi master was stoned to death. And one of the persons who threw one of the stones had a dream that night that when he went to God, he himself, the dreamer, went to God and found the God embracing the Sufi who had said he was God. And this dreamer asks God, the Pharaoh said the same thing, "I am God." And you threw him into hell. This Sufi also said the same thing, "I am God." And we are embracing him. Then God explained to the dreamer who threw a stone, when Pharaoh said he was God, he was thinking of himself. When the Sufi said he was God, he was thinking of me. When the Pharaoh said he was God, he was thinking of for himself, the Pharaoh. When the Sufi shouted, "I am God," he was not thinking of himself, he was thinking of me. That is the difference. I think that's the finish. Well, shall we close it here? Any other questions at the moment? Oh, please. Could you come a little? We'll make that the last question, and then we'll have bhajan, Margarita.
Ramesh,
Yes.
coming back once again to this concept of rebirth.
Yes.
So 30 years ago we
Yes.
had 3 billion people on Earth. Now we do have roughly 6 billion people on Earth.
Yes.
So if it's always just a rebirth, so does the source divide this energy and makes it double, or how does it work?
That was also my problem. But you see, those who have coined this theory, they have an answer. They have an answer for every question.
Sorry, once again?
You see, this is the problem. If there is rebirth, then the rebirth could only happen to a certain number of people at a time. But now the population has been 1,000 times. That's what you're saying, isn't it? So that was my problem also. But then the problem has been explained by the theorists of rebirth as the human population grows, the lower animals have been turned into human animals.
You believe that?
I believe that there is no rebirth. I believe there is no rebirth Because rebirth is based on one's own personal actions. And my deepest understanding is no one is a doer. No one is capable of doing anything. Everyone is merely a human mechanism with a mechanism in that mechanism which prevents the human mechanism from seeing his mechanistic nature. And therefore, he says, it is my work. You see? And then, man doing good work so that he may get a better life, probably wishes he could negotiate with God.
There is no way. Second minor question.
Yes, please.
If you accept. If you do have, for instance, this body-mind organism, or how you call it,
Yes.
if this mind has, for instance, a small problem on Earth, let's say a kind of claustrophobia, yeah? And then this body dies, does the mind take this weakness of, for instance, a claustrophobia into this other stadium, or how do you call it?
According to my concept, whatever remains, achievements, pride of it, or success or failure or ambitions, all of it as thought or feeling goes into the pool of consciousness. And from that pool of consciousness, what little part goes into which new conceptions, no human being can possibly know. No human object can ever know the basis on which the cosmic law functions. But the only concept I have is everything that is there, one's hopes fulfilled, ambitions not satisfied, all those at the moment of death go up in the ocean of consciousness. And where the sage is concerned, because there is no sense of personal doership, then nothing remains to go into the ocean of consciousness. And it is from this point of view that it is said, the sage does not get born again. You see, because whatever happens is accepted. And he doesn't contribute to the pool of consciousness. At the moment of death, he doesn't contribute to the pool of consciousness. An example I gave you of my brother-in-law. Till the last second, he was witnessing what was happening. No thought remained, and he died with the most peaceful expression on his face.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Marguerite.